Okay, Colleen, we don't have any proclamations, correct?
No.
So we're going to move into the workshop discussion. And is there someone here from Verizon? Come on up, sir.
Come on up, sir. So if you could address the council and then answer anything. I can't do it. I got it. There we go. All right. So if you could address the council and then answer any questions they may have and address only the council.
How you doing?
I have a review if you like, I can share it with you.
Can't hear.
Try to select directly. It is. Oh, no, it's not.
Get in.
Okay, sir.
Okay, if you'd like, I'll read the overview I just handed you. Verizon Wireless is in the process of deploying a number of small cell sites commonly known as outdoor distributed antenna systems throughout New Jersey. These are commonly known as ODAS systems. ODAS systems are essentially a cluster of small network nodes that are located within municipal and county rights-of-way, typically in densely populated areas. This technology involves the use of small, low-power antennas, which are approximately 2 to 3 feet high, mounted on top of utility poles and lamp posts. They have a limited range of approximately 500 to 2,000 feet. The clusters are all interconnected by fiber optic cable back to a traditional cell site or cell tower. The radio frequency exposure of a small network node is typically in the range of approximately 1 to 2% of the FCC mandated maximum permissible exposure level. The purpose of this technology is to enable Verizon Wireless to support the increased demand for network data. It is generally regarded as an excellent way to improve network capacity and augment coverage already provided by an existing cell tower and rooftop cell site. Although there may be already sufficient wireless signal strength in a particular area from a traditional cell site, if a large number of people are using their phones or tablets, they can experience very low download times or service drops. This technology is already in use in places where numbers of people congregate, such as transportation facilities, stadiums, hotels, convention centers, entertainment complexes, shopping malls, universities, and other venues. Other carriers are also using this technology, which is becoming more widespread. Verizon Wireless is currently deploying similar systems in many other municipalities throughout the state of New Jersey. Verizon Wireless is seeking consent from the Borough of Belmar to attach small network nodes up to 6 existing utility poles or street lamps located within the public right of way. The exact location of the small network nodes is yet to be determined. At this point, Verizon Wireless is currently planning for the 2017 build-out plan, which includes securing real estate rights. The RF engineers are in the process of analyzing data from existing sites and from customer complaints. It's likely that there would be anywhere from 1 to 6 nodes throughout Belmar that would cover areas where customers are experiencing call failures or slow down speeds due to poor coverage. As indicated in the draft resolution, Verizon Wireless will comply with all state, local, and federal permits prior to commencement of any kind of construction. And Verizon would welcome any feedback from the town for areas that they think are currently lacking coverage.
Anyone have a question?
Yeah, are there any surrounding towns, or what would be the closest town that has these?
There are a lot of these in the works now, none that are up and running as far as I know. There's a cluster that's going to be up and running in branch deal, Block Harbor. There's a small network node located about 2 blocks up the street here at 919 Main Street. It looks very similar to what it's on top of the chiropractor, Belmar chiropractic office. So it looks very similar to that. But there are a lot of these that are in the works now. They are not, as far as I know, none of them are up and running.
So for the whole town of Belmar, you would only need 6?
Up to 6. It could be as few as 1, up to 6, depending upon the other studies and how many areas of light coverage.
But you said at a range of 500 to 2,000 feet.
And that also is affected by, could be affected by buildings or anything that they close interference. So it's a straight line of sight.
Now, this is to extend cellular coverage. It's not, technically it's not Wi-Fi, right?
It's similar to Wi-Fi, but it's technically not the same height.
All right, so.
So these are all interconnected back to a traditional cell tower by fiber optic cable.
Okay,
So they support existing town.
all right, and then the cable would have to run from pole to pole, I assume?
Underground.
How are the units powered?
Could be there. So the units have separate power, and on the pictures, there's a small box attached to the pole.
Okay, it's not a battery, right? It's not solar either?
No, it's not.
Okay, so they'd have to run the power and then run the line. How long, do you figure how long it takes them to install?
It depends on the location, if there's traffic situations that need to be worked with. It can be as low as a day, up to 5 days.
Okay. This would be available to Verizon customers,
Right.
not anybody else? Okay.
And the reason it only supports one carrier is that typically the poles can't support more than one. Physically can't support more than one antenna.
Okay, and a user wouldn't have to do anything with their device, they would just be able to take it out and they would just experience a stronger signal. How do you determine where you need a stronger signal?
Radio frequency studies determine where the live coverage, where there's demand and there's not enough coverage.
Okay, how long does it take to do the study?
Well, probably a couple of weeks to do a study, but they're doing these studies throughout the state right now.
Is it weather dependent? Can you do it when it's raining?
Sure.
Okay. All right. You would let us know where you're thinking of putting these devices in?
Weekend. We typically don't provide notice.
And you're basically looking to improve coverage wherever it needs to be improved. You're not looking for beach specifically or Main Street specifically. It's just where do you need better coverage?
It's really dictated by where there's high density of people with
Using a lot of demand, right?
So is it advantageous to the normal person walking on the street with Verizon as well as a person, a resident in the neighborhood with a router with Verizon?
Sure.
Same
Sure.
both?
where they're calling for demand. Whether it's an iPad, cell phone, or Wi-Fi. It's all data that's being transmitted.
And you said that it was fiber optics back to the cell tower. Did you say underground?
Typically, it's underground, yes.
So would that be putting it under the street or under a sidewalk? Where underground are you looking to put wires?
It depends. The answer is it depends. Typically, it's close to the curb. They tend not to have to dig up sidewalks. They can sometimes do a micro tunnel, which is a simple way of working the cable in the ground without having to damage sidewalks. So they can do a length of time without really figuring anything out.
So just a small hole below this, where you have it, a water hole? Is that what you're
Would be
talking about? And
very,
then-
within close proximity to the main post or utility pole.
And then, so you would be responsible, Verizon would be responsible for filling those holes and making sure that any damage was fixed, and the town would not be responsible talking about anywhere from 1 to 6 today. In the future, a year from now, 2 years from now, are you looking to expand on that?
If technology changes, at this point, they don't proceed needing more than 6, and probably fewer than 6. But if technology changes, if 5 years ago, who would have thought we were using that as we use now? So if technology changes or if demand changes, that could change in the future.
And I would assume if you're looking at this today, to do this, that we can expect to see the other carriers in here at some point
Probably.
requesting.
Optimum is already requested.
There are, every carrier's RF studies are different from this, so they all depend on how many customers they have, where they're located, and how much demand they have.
Okay. And then you did say low power output and between 1 and only 1 to 2%. But is that a cumulative? If you're on a tower here and another carrier is on a tower next, a half a block away, what's the power output? Do they, because I know absolutely nothing about that kind of stuff. Is it a cumulative in that area where it's now approaching maybe 3 or 4%?
The distance on the RF studies is a little, I'm not sure an exact actual radius. I have to get back to you on that. But I'd have to say it's probably in the range of less than 100 feet.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So if you get these new stuff, what do you do with the wires that are there? Do you take them down? Verizon has wires stretched.
In addition.
Oh, this
It's
is
an
an addition, where this takes over for the wires.
Not sure if I understand.
Will
the
there be
question.
any wire removal as a part of this project of existing Verizon wires?
No.
Oh, no, so this is,
So these are going on existing lampposts and utility poles. On top, the antennas are on top of the lampposts or the utility poles.
do you already have permission from JCP&L?
Yes.
You do.
KCP&L, PSC&G, and sometimes a municipal, if it's a municipal-owned lamppost or utility pole, then we give consent.
Jen? Jen? Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Next on the workshop discussion is smart bikes. Do we have someone here? Come on up, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Just want to introduce yourself. And you want to talk into the mic. If the voice is not going into the mic, people can't hear you. Yes,
Thank you.
but we can hear you because you're close to us. People in the back can't hear you but you want to face us, so that's why you got to talk into the microphone.
How's that?
That's clear.
It's great. We're there. Awesome.
You hear in the back?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I have a presentation disc that I brought along with me. I travel quite a bit, so I don't tend to carry too much paper. If I can put it in the machine, it'd be great. It'd be
It's about
helpful.
5 minutes, right?
It's not even 5
Okay.
slides. But I'll start by saying my name is James Murphy. I'm the Director of Business Development for an organization located in New York City called P3 Global Management. And our core focus on what we do is we look at civil infrastructure and we turn whatever existing municipal assets that are there, we try to find ways to revitalize them and monetize them for the municipality and for us. So it's a P3 structure. There you have P3 Global Management. In New Jersey, currently we're working with 3 municipalities where we've deployed bike sharing programs: Hoboken, Weehawken, and Union City. Union City and Weehawken are being deployed. Hoboken was deployed last, November, and we have over 5,500 members. It's explosive. It's a wonderful program. It serves the community well. I actually live there. And, pardon me. And we've selected 12 other municipalities in New Jersey to work with, primarily education places, so Rutgers and Newark and New Brunswick and JIT. Very cool, interesting places where mobility is a key factor for the city and for the universities. Thank you. Now, the Jersey Shore, I've been coming down here since I was a kid. It's a great place. The boardwalks are awesome, the beaches are wonderful. There's a lot of schools down here that is maintained throughout the year, so we're looking at places like Belmar and some other neighboring towns where a bike sharing program could benefit throughout the year. But more importantly, the congestion of the beaches in the summertime starts to talk to people about doing something a little greener, maybe have less cars in the street, and put bicycles on the streets for visitors and residents to use. So we look at each municipality differently. Thank you. I'm sorry, I don't mean to ask you to turn around. You don't have to. It's just, I'll make sure you have all this data.
You can email it.
Yeah. Okay, great. Now, you can leave that up for a second. So the idea is to look at cities like Belmar and help out with mobility, connectivity, and things like parking. So we look at different projects from all over the globe. Primarily my business, and my team works primarily in New Jersey. I don't really need to go anywhere else, but we're in many other places. But to stay focused on this, we want to be able to work with Belmar and others in the area, just like we're doing on the Hudson River. Go all the way from Hoboken up to the George Washington Bridge and into the infrastructure as a whole. So this is just some bits and pieces about us and how we work. We come into a city or municipality or university, we pay for the entire program. And what we do is we do it through a number of different vehicles. What would have to happen here? I understand there was a proposal for a bike sharing program that went out. I couldn't find it. I didn't know what happened with it. But we have a contract with Hudson County, with Weehawken, Hoboken, and Jersey City. Jersey City, we do not have bikes there. That's where City Bike is. Mayor Fulop decided to go with City Bike. My point in telling you that is we can use that contract, help develop a similar contract, either through RFP, or we can go to Trenton perhaps, and say this is something that Belmar is interested in. They would like to do something like this, and then we figure out the legislation. Through C3 legislation, which is changing quite a bit, public-private partnerships. Excuse me. Would you mind putting the slide, please? So this is kind of the nuts and bolts of everything I was just talking about. Depending upon the amount of residents you have, the schools you have, we look at the metrics and the urban planning that you have for streets, street lights, parking, etc. We work into that with where we would put bicycles. So we might select beaches, we might select schools, we might select a restaurant, and then we go into the infrastructure of the town and we get sponsorships. So the local restaurants would, on the side of the bike, would have a surf taco on the side or whatever it might be. It could be the school, it could be a local business. This is just general facts that I don't need to go over with you, but that's kind of the general idea of where we kind of want to put these bicycles. And here's just the key facts. This is just stuff that we put together. This is why we chose it. It's an interesting destination. People do like it here. People do come here. There is a well-founded residential community here, and we just thought it would be a good idea to reach out to you, which we have, and that's how I got here today.
If I could, I just want to back up to one point of the presentation, just because it is a little bit different. I see that you have in here that the contractor may need up to 2 years to secure necessary funding. If such funding is available, no obligation to launch a bike share program. So basically, it's a 24-month window, I guess, whereby you guys are trying to secure the funding, but it could be 2 years before the program is live.
If I can answer that piece. So New Rochelle, New York, we put out this very similar conversation, went to city council, helped write an RFP, but the RFP came back, won the RFP, same exact pieces of the puzzle that you're seeing today. We're launching, we won that 2 months ago. We were awarded that 2 months ago. We're already planning. We're already out in the streets. We're already getting urban planners in the city, all involved, permitting. We have a website. We have a lot of things moving. The 2 years is not what we want to do. We want to make this happen. And it's summertime now. It's not going to happen this summer, but we would like to launch this for next spring. That's my personal thoughts and opinions on it.
So is the partnership that you set this up and kind of rent space in our town to have the bikes, and we benefit from it.
That's right.
We don't pay, and you don't give us any revenue.
Good question. So there's three ways that these projects work. Sponsorship, advertising, and membership. So a member would be, in the university, a member is $60 a year. Someone could ride a bike for, at 30 minutes, it costs $2. You rent a bike for a week, it costs $25. We figure out the scale that matters most, and that suits best the community. In certain areas, we go to HUD and we just give bikes away. Or distressed people that just can't afford it, so we do that. We come into Capitol, we pay for everything, we get the rights to do these certain things, we just listen to the Verizon guy. We need to have rights to real estate. These are smart bikes, they have a brain in them. It's all application-based, you can use a credit card, there's a few ways to do it on a website, but they're smart. We know where they are, they're geotagged, we know where they are at all times. So you can find a bike, go look for a bike, any way you want it, but most importantly, the financial structure needs to work. So residents of town would have to either pay a membership, an annual membership, or they can do seasonal, or they can do weekly. Depending, we would figure out what works best, because we don't want to have bicycles that don't work and that no one uses. So we kind of launch softly, put in, I don't know, 100 bikes, 150 bikes, put them, spread them out wherever you think they're best located. And then from there, we figure out what the best economics would be.
But there's no revenue to the town, it's basically to.
In our contract with Hoboken and Weehawken, when we created that contract, we were giving back to the community. So a certain percentage of all the capital, the revenues, the gains, once we realized our capital expenditure, then we started to make money. And then from that, we would give back to the community a certain amount. So it's a business. We're in business with you. It's in our best interest to win.
There's no liability to the town,
No.
is there?
No. In the contract, it stipulates the indemnification and the liability falls solely upon us. We create a business here. We have an operator that works here, someone that manages the bicycles. We actually create a job here for too. We move bikes around, we maintain the bikes, we open a business, we buy a van.
It wouldn't be Belmar personnel would have to be involved in maintaining them.
No, we would create a company.
Okay.
We'd create a company and hire some folks.
Is there anything different or advantageous to your company as opposed to what Mayor Fulton went with?
It's a good question. It's a similar program, but it's a much more expensive program. The infrastructure is much heavier. The bicycles you see here lock themselves. You don't need, in New York City, if you've seen those bikes, there's heavy infrastructure. You don't need that. All you really need is a simple bike rack. They lock themselves. You just take this little piece of metal out, put it in the front wheel, press a button, and walk away. Leave it at the boardwalk, but I put in designated areas. But it's much less, the costs of this program are far less than what we see in New York City.
How do they hold up in sand?
They're not bad tires. It's like riding a rice rocket, on the beach. If you went out there with a KX-125, it would be great.
I'm not thinking of actually taking them on the beach, but I'm thinking more, if we have bike racks down by the beach, there's, sand gets all over everything, you know what we're talking about. So, I would want to make sure that, like you, if we decided to do this, I would want to avoid frustration on the part of the user. How do you make sure the bike's going to work if we're going to be riding down by the beach?
We're running a similar program in West Palm Beach. So we're familiar with the beach, erosion and salts, and it happens. We build it into the model.
Can we go to the next slide, please? That's another question. It says that we would be the sponsor, or are you the sponsor?
The selected sponsor, these are bits and pieces from the contract, so it might seem a little confusing, I do
Okay.
apologize for that.
That's my question.
So let's say, for instance, Verizon, my friends in the back here, they decide they want to sponsor the bike. So then that's a 25 bicycles. We do a full program sponsored by one organization, or we typically go to the 4 or 5.
Okay. And the sponsor could pay a fee.
Yeah,
They would
absolutely.
pay the fee.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
You said designated areas, so you're picking up a bike from a designated place, but you ride it down to the boardwalk to go on the beach. Do you have your own bike racks that it has to be put in, or can somebody just park it in one of the bike racks that's there right now?
Preferably, we figure out designated areas where the bikes would go. So where you go up with your badge, somewhere near there, in the parking lot, you set up an area where the bikes would stay. You can take the bike wherever you want, but you want to be mindful of where you're bringing it to, because if you forget the bike, you leave it in the sand, you forget the bike, it's a $1,200 bicycle, it's not something you want to pay for. So you have to be responsible for it. So the end user license agreement stipulates things like that. But we would ask that the city or the town or the village give us certain rights in certain areas, and we work together and we put up the bike rights themselves.
And would you handle signage as well, so people can find something?
Absolutely. I would support anyone to reach out to Hoboken, one known as the communications director, who's happy to answer any questions. But we've done all that, and it's expanded.
I have one more question about the sponsors. I mean, I would assume that you would look for sponsors within the local business community?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So typically for sponsorship, we look at, let's use a number of 100 just for this purpose. So we're gonna have 100 bicycles. To sponsor those bicycles, it's about $1,200 each bicycle for the year. We tend to go into 25 buckets, so that would be 4 sponsors. If we found somebody that wanted to sponsor them all for a year, we would do that. It's a lot of money, and the benefits might not be there. And for this area, that's why city bikes aren't interested in smaller communities, because it just doesn't, it can't be money. The infrastructure costs are too high. But these bikes are a little bit easier. So we would typically look into, my thoughts on this thus far were to look into the business community here, work with the Chamber of Commerce, on one side, Belmar Chamber of Commerce, and on the other side, Mike's Sub Shop and whatever, all those guys. And then, they would have it for a term, maybe a year, maybe 6 months.
Would you be changing the number of bikes winter and summer? You showed, which is true, we have about 5,700 residents year-round. Of course, we expand quite a bit in the summertime, so would you be bringing more bikes in, having a certain number here in the winter, and then this time of year bringing in more just for those 3 months?
We would certainly consider that. It would make sense to have a lot of bikes there. So we ship bikes up from Florida in the summertime to other locations, because it doesn't make sense to have them there if no one's using them. So we would want to figure out through some urban planning and understanding for our own side and propose an idea that would make the most sense. So come September, October, it doesn't make sense to have those 100 bicycles, just using the number. Maybe we would whittle it down to 50. Whatever's going to serve the community, we just repurpose those bikes. And again, our financial model can afford this because we're much smaller capital.
Do you need tandem?
I hear all the time.
Are there different sizes, or is it just like
It's
one?
basically one bike, it's adjustable seat, basket in front, and it's got a bell and 6 gears.
Age level?
You have to be 16 or older. If you are under the age of 18, you have to wear a helmet. So the law says if you're under 16 years of age or 16, you have to wear a helmet. It's your choice. My son wears a helmet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving right along, do we have anybody from the BBP here speaking? Rep?
Speaking of sponsoring bicycles,
Maybe not tonight.
Maybe not tonight? Then I think, Nick, you're up talking to us about Lake Como and I believe McCreary Park, right?
Sure.
Thank you. Sorry, Kyle, I'm trying to pull up.
Everyone's made aware.
Yeah.
Okay, so I came to give you guys an update about where we're at with the 2 projects that you mentioned. I'm going to start with the Lake Como. As you guys know, it was a federal grant that we received for the project. The last few months, we've been working on what's called an ERR. And basically what that is a document that we submit to the state for them to be able to declare that there's no impact that's going to be negative to the community, whether environmental resources or cultural resources, for example. They don't want any negative impacts to shellfish that are in the water or historical buildings, things like that. So there's this long document that you have to fill out that basically goes through, it's a checklist that we have to provide documentation to say why we're not impacting anything negatively. This document, we've been going back and forth with DEP for about 3-4 months now. Colleen and I actually had a phone call today. We're actually at the final stage of this now, where we anticipate them signing off on it within the next week or so. After this gets authorized, what will happen is we will advertise for public comment. And once the public comment period ends, we get an authorization to use the funds, so we can actually use the grant funds to start doing the project. Our situation is a little unique because the grant actually included permitting fees. We did not want to waste taxpayer dollars on something that we were going to be able to get funded for. So we've been waiting until we got the approval to use the funds to begin the process. We anticipate beginning the process very shortly for permitting. Concurrently with that will be the construction bid documents that will go out. And sometime at the end of the summer, we'll be going out to bid for getting contractors.
Public comment is on the ERR.
Yes.
And people would be, obviously, they'd have to be able to see this document, be able to comment. Where do you see it?
I believe we'll have to have a copy of it here that somebody can come in and take a look at it.
We're publishing the advertisement in the Star Ledger and the
El
Spanish.
Diario, I believe.
Yeah, a Spanish-speaking publication. And then the document will be accessible on our website and then here at Borough Hall.
So what about the press and the Co-Star?
There's only certain publications that we're supposed to advertise in one publication that's English speaking and one publication that's Spanish speaking. They have a list of publications that they want you to use.
And the Co-Star's not on it? Oh, I'm shocked.
So who are you really dealing with? Trenton or Washington or both?
So Washington themselves never really gets involved from our vantage. It's just multiple departments from the state. And they don't always talk to each other and agree with each other. So we're dealing with a woman, Becky Jones. She's the one who actually is administering the grant. The state administers the grant on behalf of the federal government. If that makes any sense?
It's the federal government money that the state
Correct.
is.
So,
And it's the federal government rules that the state has to administer. So Nick mentioned Becky Jones. She's wonderful. She's phenomenal. She was on the call with us today trying to get the various divisions to get on the same page. It just takes a great deal of coordination to translate these HUD rules into state of New Jersey terms.
and at the end of the day, this is a multi-million-dollar project. The last thing that we want to do is jeopardize any of the funding by not following the procedure and, basically not getting reimbursed on a technicality for something.
Everyone's really concerned about not making a mistake.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good.
So ballpark estimate when you might see something being.
Something actually being built.
Right.
We're going to try to advertise, like I said, for construction sometime in like late summer, early fall. It's going to take a little bit of time to get a contractor on board. It's got to go out for public bid. It's a kind of a specialty, larger job. You might want it to be out on the street a little bit longer, so then you get good pricing and good contractors that are coming in. And then it takes a little bit of time to set up contracts and get everything rolling. They have to get materials and things like that. My guess would be sometime early next year would be when somebody would actually put a shovel on the ground.
Early next year.
Well, early 2017.
Okay.
And then once they start, do you have any idea how long the project will take from start to finish?
I believe we conservatively anticipated about 9 months. I think this is a project that very, very greatly depends on the weather. You're out in the open ocean. There is no like, there is no way for them to seal off the site from the ocean. You know, typically with construction, if you're doing construction in wet areas, you would de-water the area so you could work in the dry. It's impossible to do that in this instance. It's basically, they just try to control the waves so there's not waves coming in, and then they're going to be at the mercy of the tides and the weather and things like that. So if we get, you know, nice mild winter, mild spring, it could go very quickly. If we get a really, really tough weather, and you know, it's also the timing of the weather. If the weather hits when the tides are high and they couldn't work anyway, it's not a big deal. But if the weather hits during that week that we have the low tides at the good time, you know, it's a little bit harder.
How would it affect, if it does go into the summer, the beachgoers on the 20th Avenue Beach?
I think that the construction area will be pretty contained. The way that I've talked to a few marine contractors just to kind of pick their brain as to how they would build it. They all mentioned that they would use this trestle system that would go out alongside the project. There would be some sort of steel sheeting around, even though we can't control the water, there would be sheeting around to kind of like break the waves and not have open ocean in your construction zone. And then everything else would be fenced off. And obviously we can stage things where the things that would be the most impact to people, we could do in times that are not, you know, the middle of the summer.
So it's conceivable that people would have to, they wouldn't be able to walk all the way up and down the beach, say between Belmar and Spring Lake. Probably have to walk.
But there will be periods of interruption, but I wanted to point out that Spring Lake has been incredibly cooperative with the project and is agreeable to us utilizing their section of beach for the pipe to go out. So we're not actually impacting much of Belmar land at all, other than where the actual chamber is at the lake head.
And will Ocean Avenue be closed for a short period of time?
Ocean Avenue will be closed at some point. We have to get the pipe under the whole road.
After they just repaved it, huh?
Yes.
Which we got approval for from the county before they did. They understand it's happening.
Right, next, part two.
Part two, McCleary Park. We're moving forward with a bathroom facility. It's currently being fabricated. We're anticipating getting it in, I would assume at this point, you know, a couple weeks. The other part of it is that we're going to be constructing a foundation for it, so then it will have a flush, it will be flush with grade. So then there will be ADA access to coming in and out of the bathroom. And we're also going to be putting up a shade structure. Those things should be happening in the next few weeks. And then right in early fall, right after Labor Day, we're going to be moving forward with the installation of bocce ball courts and resurfacing the tennis courts.
Something that Nick and I did this week was we took a look at the project scope and understood that there are things that we can do much sooner rather than later. So in terms of new picnic tables, new grills, 'cause a lot of those grills are really rough at this point. So we're going to be working internally to try to front burner those things that the borough can do on its own.
What about picnic benches or benches overlooking the waterway? I know there is a concern in the community about the quality of the bathroom. It's a prefab, but it's going to be, its quality is going to be as good as...
It's identical to the bathrooms that we have on the boardwalk. The only difference would be that instead of you walking straight off the boardwalk to the bathroom, you're going to be walking straight off the ground to it. We're going to sink it into the ground so it doesn't look like a trailer.
So it's not going to be a glorified porta john. It's going to be
No.
a building that people wouldn't mind going in and using and walking out. And because it's prefab, I mean, because it's mobile, we can flush to the ground, correct?
Yes, and part of the reason that we went that direction is because, as you know, things flood by the water there. In the event of a large storm coming, we can pull it out and protect it from getting destroyed. In order for us to build that as a conventional building, it would have to be elevated very high in the air to get over the flood zone. So it's not really practical to build a conventional building there. You have, ramps going back and forth a couple feet, so.
Worst case scenario, we have a big storm coming, there's so much work to do, we can't pull it out. It does flood. Is that gonna destroy that building? Or can it take? Some salt water, will everything be?
I would say that it would very much depend on where the water got into. Even though it is getting, like I said, it's getting sunk in the ground, we're actually building the grade up a little bit too. So it'll be about, I think it's 1.5 feet higher than what the existing grade is there. So as long as it doesn't go, I would say, into the walking area, and even if it does go into the finished floor area, as long as it doesn't get high enough where it really soaks any of, insulation and things like that, it should be okay.
I think, for storms that, like we do storm prep now, where we have 1 or 2 days notice before a storm, it will absolutely be removed. If there is a surprise or severe storm, it'd be almost like any other facility that we have, where we might not have time to get out of the way. So that's more of an extreme example.
And I mean, I actually live very close to where the bathroom's going.
You have room in your driveway for it?
That is our alternate location.
Very good.
I can tell you that from most normal storms, the park doesn't flood like that during a normal storm. Only during like Hurricane Sandy does it come over the bulkhead like that. So.
But we're gonna get some cosmetic work started over
Yes.
there.
Much
Okay.
sooner rather than later. We started some. Councilman McGovern had a very productive walk with our DPW through the park, and we did a lot of spring cleaning, I guess I could call it, which helped a lot, but we're going to be doing more. So you'll be starting to see some of the park improvements that we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah, I like the way we cut down the grasses to a lower level to be the same height as the knockout roses, but there's still 1 or 2 trees on the highway side that you should just bless them.
Yeah.
They can just be taken out.
Okay,
They're
we'll
dead.
we'll project on with this.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, moving on to petitions. Anybody in the audience with a petition that you'd like to serve to the council? Seeing none, we'll go to approval of the minutes. Councilwoman Blackburn.
I move that the minutes of the meetings held on May the 3rd, 2016 be approved as recorded, and that a copy thereof be posted on the borough's website.
I'll second.
Councilman Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes. Okay, now for reports of council. Councilwoman Blackburn.
Saturday evening, I was very, very pleased and excited to have the opportunity to stop at St. Rose High School to watch their track team arrive home from state championship. If you that evening heard fire engines going through the town and heard police cars, it was not an emergency. The track team, both the boys and the girls, got to ride on 2 of our fire trucks around town. It was our way of saying this is a ticker tape parade for them. They were excited when they left there. They did a fantastic job winning the state championship, and because they're here in Belmar, we have to be very, very proud of them. I have nothing to do with St. Rose. I don't go there to church, but I am very proud that they're here with us. The senior luncheon is this coming Wednesday, the 15th at 11 a.m. I received information from Monmouth County. It talked about all the different food pantries here in Monmouth. Apparently, in Monmouth County, there are a lot of seniors who are having trouble buying food. So the county has sent out information about the different food pantries in the different towns and asked us to distribute it to the people in our towns. The Methodist Church on 7th and D does have a food pantry, and along with that, they have what they call a clothes closet. So they do take donations of clothing. Anyone who needs clothing can come in and when the food pantry is open, and they will certainly allow you to go through their clothes closet and help yourself to anything that you need. If you have something that you'd like to get rid of clothing-wise, they are always in need for used clothing also, nice used clothing. The Women's Club, the Belmar Women's Club, and the Central Jersey Blood Bank will be having a blood drive on June the 21st. It's a Tuesday, from 3 until 7 p.m. at the First Aid Squad here in Belmar, and that's at 9th and D Avenue. It doesn't cost you anything except a pint. And the next health issue that we're going to talk about for just a minute is Choose Your Cover, July 16th. It will be on the beach under the tent, and I believe the tent this year is at 8th Avenue. So that's where it'll be. It is free skin cancer checks. It'll run from 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. The last registration is at 1:30. Last year, although it rained, we had about 140 people show up and get screened for skin cancer. This is free, and I hope everybody will take advantage of it. And thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
Thank you, Council President. I don't have too much to report. The Belmar Environmental Commission is meeting tomorrow evening, 6:30, at the library downstairs in the community room. Public is welcome to that. And I wanted to let everybody know that there's going to be a fundraiser this Sunday for the Beach Music Studios Scholarship. That's run by my friend Danny White. Sunday, June 12th, 1 to 4 p.m. at the Beach House Brewery. Tickets are $25, 21 and up includes a free pint of Beach House beer. Pick your beer. 17 and under are free. This is what funds his scholarship. He runs a scholarship program. They give out 2 scholarships every year. The applicants have to fill out an essay about what music means to them. I know 2 of the students who won this past year, great kids. Really, music is a big part of their life, so I'm definitely a big supporter of this. And I hope you will enjoy and support that as well. That's for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Jen?
Hey, just quickly reminding me, this evening at 10th Ave Burrito is a fundraiser for the Belmar Avon Lake Como Little League. So if you go over there and you can support them, that'd be great. I did want to start, though, to congratulate our Citizen of the Year, Jean Murray.
Yeah.
Well deserved. I want to thank all the voters that came out on Tuesday. I do have some updates. I'll go as quickly as possible. St. Rose Grammar School, June 9th is 8th grade graduation. June 16th is the last day of school. June 20th is the summer hours start to begin, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 12 p.m. They're accepting new students and private tours are available. Belmar Elementary School graduation is the 16th. Last day of school is the 17th. The Art Center, again, has a great show called Old Masters. It's featuring artwork inspired by the works and techniques of masters Open Wednesday through Sunday, 1 to 5 p.m. through June 23rd. I've already seen it myself, and it's incredible, as all their shows, so please get over there if you can. Belmar DPW, I was given a very long list because they're extremely busy, and I'll just touch on some things. Flushing hydrants, painting street and curb lines, helping the beach crews, plants and flowers, picking up brush, etc., etc. And you see them all over town working very hard, and the town looks great, as always. BBP, Belmar Business Partnership, social media campaign is really going well. We've got a Belmar commercial out that's been getting a lot of hits, and the Facebook page numbers just keep increasing. If you haven't been to the Facebook page, please visit it and check out the commercial. Lastly, with the BBP parking update, the BBP Parking Committee is working closely with Colleen, DPW, and John Hutchinson of the Arts Council on a special project to address parking within the Central Business District, CBD. The BBP will purchase between 15 and 20 bike racks to be located at key points in the CBD. The BBP, a lot of acronyms. Yeah, you know me. The BBP committee is meeting with other business owners to encourage them to purchase bike racks for their employees and customers. This campaign is being called Park It Here, Park It Here. And the BBP and Arts Council will be developing, purchasing, and installing information signs that will show you where to park it. The signs will show public parking areas where bicycle racks are located for bicycles, pedestrians, where benches are available for seating. So the Park It Here is literally refers to bikes, buggies, and butts. I didn't write it. The BBP committee hopes to look for this project to begin showing benefit later this month, with signs being installed somewhere in July. And I think this would be a great addition to the town. Anyone willing to help, please contact Tom Burke or Kate Walters at BBP committee. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just got a couple things. I just want to report on the mayor's ball that we had last weekend. It was a fundraiser for the Belmar Youth Club, and it would be extremely outstanding success if I told you that they raised $11,100. I'm not going to tell you that. Believe me, would you believe $19,700? No, still more. 25,000? No, over $40,000 was raised by the Belmar Mayor's Ball last week. So, Colleen, so unbelievable amount of money. And I know it's a lot of hard work, but you and your committee, everybody, terrific. Janice touched on the fact that St. Rose won the state championship in Parochial B. That's exceptional when you consider the fact they don't have a track. So, yeah, these kids practice on their own. I don't know how the distance runners, the 3,200 relay, won first place. I mean, and you're running around the track. I don't know how they do it. So terrific. And it was, got to mention that Chief Heisman's son, Drew, won the discus. So he is a state champion for Oakland B, and he's only a junior. So that's great. Since our last meeting, we had Memorial Day. The weekend was fine on the beach, but better than that was the memorial service on Main Street between 12th and 13th Avenue. Great job by Danny Moynihan and the other veterans there. I like the fact that we blocked off the street so that no cars went by. And the new microphone, everyone could hear. And Tom, your kids played a great with the horns. Who played house?
Hannah Haverstick, 8th grader.
Terrific, terrific. So really, and again, as Jen mentioned, the Belmar Little League, and which includes baseball for boys, softball for girls, is having a fundraiser over at 10th Avenue Burrito till 10 o'clock. So if you can go over there and support the Little League, that's terrific. It's the biggest youth organization in the world. So that's what I have for my report. Moving on to the public session.
So we have a presentation of our budget. Our CFO, Robin Kirk, is here for you. So members of council, you may want to join us off the dais for the presentation.
Okay.
Or you can just turn around and look.
Or you can turn around in your movie seats like we did for this.
Great voice. I love your voice.
Radio.
We can hear you.
For anybody that doesn't know me and I talk loud enough, I don't need that microphone. I'm Robin Kirk. I'm the CFO for the Borough of Belmar. The Borough of Belmar introduced our budget about a month ago. Tonight is our public hearing, so if there's any questions. But I will go through a quick scenario of past 5-year history on our budget, and then we'll take any questions if anybody has them. The 2016 budget for the Borough of Belmar is $23,364,000. Our budget is made up and comprised of 4 different funds. Our current fund, being the largest portion of our budget, is our police department, our Department of Public Works, our health insurance, our pension. That's slightly over $15 million. Our water and sewer utility is $3.3 million. Our beach utility, $4.6 million. And then we also have our parking utility, which is parking meters, things like that on the beachfront, is $228,000. The graphs you see on the bottom, this will be on each slide. So you will see our budgets and how they've projected from 2011 going through 2016. In other words, the blue line is our current fund budget and what it's done over the past 6 years. A little more detail on our current fund budget. On our current fund budget, it does break down into about 5 or 6 different expenses that the state asks us to combine it into. Our other expenses, this would be if we ever bought a police car. The guns he's wearing on his side, the pen I've got in my hand, again, our health insurance, our pension payments, things like that, is $7.6 million. Our salary and wages, this would be majority of our full-time staff, Department of Public Works, police officers, the administrative staff, $5.1 million. Those 2 numbers in the budget is the blue line and the burgundy line. As you can see, they have ticked up just slightly this year. We have stayed pretty consistent. The tick up is about $560,000. This is due to the interlocal or the shared service where we're now providing service to Lake Como. Again, that number is about 560. You will see an offset to that when I get to the next slide of the revenues. The other things that we have in here are capital and debt. We're paying off over $1 million of our debt payments this year. Reserve for uncollected taxes. This is the line we have to have in our budget for people who unfortunately don't pay their taxes. We still have to pay the county and the schools, so we have to be made whole. And the last one is the library. That is a separate tax that actually shows up on your tax bill now. It's a statutory calculation as to how much we have to fund for our library. That number actually has stayed the same since last year. It is based on the assessments of the town. The revenues in our budget. Top revenue is unfortunately our taxes, but our taxes have remained the same again for quite a few years. We are actually lowering them by $5,862. The second line is our local revenues. This is made up of the construction fees. The largest part of this that will be increasing this year, the $560,000 expenditure I talked about for the local services we'll be providing to Lake Como, is being offset by a $723,000 revenue we will be taking in this year to pay for those services. So because we're actually taking in a little more than we're spending, it's actually helped us to decrease our use of our surplus this year. The next line, as you can see, is our surplus. I don't know if you can see it, but it's the little yellow line down there. It was a little higher last year, and we've been able to drop that because of some other revenues that are coming in. Next revenue, larger revenue in our budget is our marina slip rentals. That number we did drop about $80,000 this year just because we didn't know what would be going on with that construction down there to make sure everybody wanted to come back. As of June 1st, although we've only anticipated $95,000, we've actually taken in and billed $1,060,000. So our rentals are coming in like previous years, but we were a little cautious on that one when we introduced the budget. The other revenue, state aid, hasn't changed in years, so flatline. Interlocal services agreements, that's our dispatching, our court, we also do with several municipalities. I myself go to Spring Lake several times a week, so we are working with other municipalities, and it's a revenue to us to offset our expenses. Last one's grants. We did get some grants that are coming into this year, and then the last one the state would like us to break out is our construction code department. It actually usually brings in a little over $100,000, but we anticipate $75,000. Surplus. In our current fund, as you can see, the blue line is what we start out every single year with. The red line is what we use within our budget, and then the yellow line is what we would regenerate. What do we put back into it? $995,000 slip rentals, but we take in $1 million, so we put some more back into our savings account. The trend that happened here is where we upkicked and then came back down. It's kind of with Hurricane Sandy, we were taking in funds to help pay off things. So we had an upkick to our surplus right after Sandy. We're kind of leveling back off now. So if you see that line in 16, the blue line of what we had, we're kind of getting back to what our 2011, 2012 numbers were, and I would anticipate they will then stay at that level from going forward. Our water and sewer utility budget. This is one of the most boring ones. Kind of stayed flat, not much to say about it. The one thing I will say, the other expenses, the blue line on this one, majority of that money, or over 80% of it, goes out to other agencies, whether it's South Monmouth Regional Sewage Authority, New Jersey American Water, which I know we have renegotiated a contract with them. I'd actually see that come down, but I was just a little cautious and wanted to make sure we stay within our usage. So, but otherwise, our expenses in our sewer utility have stayed the same. Over the next couple of years, we will be planning out debt payments. We've just done over $6 million worth of projects in town. We've already raised the rates to cover it, which you'll see in our revenues. Revenues have kicked up a little bit. We had a great year last year, very dry summer. Water sewer utility, no different than the beach utility, very dependent on the weather. We had a dry year last year. All of your lawns were beautiful, and I thank you, because you used a lot of water. So anyway, besides that, we did put a small rate increase into effect at the end of 14 because we were starting these large projects that are coming online. This actually helped our surplus. Blue line towards the end is our surplus balance at the beginning of 16. It is because of the yellow line in 15 when we had a lot of usage, plus the rate increase. That surplus is now going to be reserved because over the next couple of years, we're going to start paying the debt on the $6 million project we just got done taking care of. So we're kind of banking it up a little bit so that we'll have it when these debt payments start hitting. Beach utility. Similar to the water utility, dry summer last year. Expenses, top line, the blue line is our salaries and wages. $2.5 million. That is the largest increase in our beach utility budget this year. Everything else is remaining flat. Our lifeguards, gate attendants, beach cleaners, they haven't had a raise in over 2 years. We were wanting to make sure the beach revenues were going to come back. So, very happy man here, we gave him a raise.
Except him.
So, our staff down there, which does total over 300 people that we employ at that beach front, between the lifeguards and everything, they did see, not much, but they all did get a raise this year. So that was basically the only increase in our, and this whole row is happy. That was the only increase in our utility budget this year. Other expenses are remaining the same. Capital and debt, $740,000. Consistently, we've still been getting money in from FEMA. Every time we do, we pay off a little more of that debt. That's still down there. Surplus. Again, did have a very good year. If you look at our, no, sorry, I'm on revenues. Revenues, again, everything's staying pretty steady. We've regained our complete surplus. You'll see that on the next slide. Our beach revenues, absolutely phenomenal last year. But we're not getting overly excited. You never know, it could rain, 4th of July weekend. So we try every year to keep our anticipation of revenues basically the same for that rainy day. If we don't make it, it won't hurt us the following year. Surplus in the beach utility, the blue line was consistently steady, spiked last year. Again, it was just because of how good of a summer we all had up and down the Jersey Shore. Great summer, very few rainy days. Our last utility, all right, this one's the most boring one. Our parking utility. This is the meters down the beachfront, now called kiosks. Our parking utility had a very good year last year. We did raise the rates because we were starting some of those capital projects, the curbing and everything down there. Largest amount in that budget, you'll see, is that yellow line, capital and debt. It's not really debt, it's the capital project. We were putting in the new curbings and stuff. We had actually budgeted for that last year, over $125,000. The project just never happened. We were waiting for the county to get ready to do the paving. So it's really not that we're putting $250,000 in, $125 last year, $125. It's just been rolled back into this year's budget. The fees, again, we did double them to try to start paying for some of this. Came in a little under what we had anticipated. Plus, we have to split part of this with the beach utility, making sure everybody gets their fair share. So I did decrease the anticipation this year a little bit. Again, last year was just an extraordinary year. I don't want to over-anticipate something and end us up in some type of deficit. Last thing is the surplus in the beach utility. You'll see that yellow line spiked where we regenerated. Wasn't true dollars, it was just the fact that we did not do that capital project last year. So I canceled it so that I would have that surplus coming back into this year. So the nuts and bolts of it, I'm not asking the mayor and council to do any rate increases for anything this year. Taxes will go down by $5,000 overall for the whole town. Hope you all get a couple cents of that. Water rates can remain the same. We're already into paying our debt off, and our beach utilities, the other two utilities are doing fine. So that's all I have. If anybody has, there is a public hearing. I don't know if the council wants to take any questions at the time from the public, and then I can go home and see my family.
Why don't we have council go back up to the dais? You can have question time with Robin, and then we'll open the hearing. If I could, Miss Ma'am, you just unplug that.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I want to just real quickly piggyback on Robin's presentation. As you all know very well, this is our 6th consecutive year of no tax increase. Yay. And actually, our tax revenue is going down slightly this year. I wanted to draw your attention to this current fund slide that Robin prepared that really speaks about our revenues. Because this captures the 6 years that taxes have not been raised under this administration. And what you can see is the blue line, that amount to be raised by taxation, has really stayed level. Just doesn't move. What does move is the purple line, which is local revenues.
Local revenues, other types of revenues.
Other types of revenues. So this really speaks to what the mayor has charged us with, which is don't rely on revenue raised by taxation. Find creative ways, find new ways to bring in revenue through redevelopment agreements, through concessions, through any number of things.
Selling tax, or going out to bid for tax licenses.
Going out to bid for tax licenses. So I really wanted to highlight that because 2 things. One, this doesn't happen by accident. This happens under expert fiscal management. I've said it before, I'll say it again, we have the best CFO in the state of New Jersey. We're just lucky that she's here. And I also do have to thank our department heads. So Chief Heisman, Mike Campbell, April Claudio, have not had an easy road to hoe. And it gets tougher each year because we don't have a tax increase, but they find these alternate forms of revenue. They're the ones who are getting interested, getting creative, able with the auctioning off the taxi licenses. So they're constantly thinking about how to raise revenue that's not coming from the taxpayer. They sit and talk to Robin, and we figure it out. So I just really wanted to thank the team, because again, this doesn't happen by accident. Thanks.
Okay, Robin, I have a quick question, because I'm sure somebody out there caught it also. You said our was going down, what, $50,000?
$5,000.
$5,000. But we have an ordinance that we're going to be voting on for the cap, budget cap to exceed 0 to 3.5%. So could you, because you understand the municipal budget so much, how it's going down $5,000, but we're going to be asked to vote on something that could raise it possibly up to 3.5%?
Okay. What you're voting on is not the levy. It is the appropriations. How much money do I have in that budget? $15 million. Particularly for appropriations. We bank that money every year. You're allowed to go up 0, or you can adopt this ordinance and say, hey, we might want to go up 3.5%. What our council has done, or what this administration has done over the past several years, is we have banked that money, just on paper. You can't raise taxes to make that money up. If I need that appropriation, exactly what happened this year, we decided to provide a service to another town. We had to put money in our budget in order to provide that service. We need another revenue to offset it, which is the service contract with them. So that money you're talking about on that cap ordinance is not taxes, it's an expense. I may need to spend money on something, But in order to fund it and have the money in the bank for it, we would have to come up with a different type of revenue to offset it. So, that's what's wrong.
We do this pretty much every year, correct?
Every single year, and again, if we don't use it, which honestly, we really haven't over the past 4 or 5 years, this year was a special circumstance. We had to add $500,000 to our budget. If we did not have that banked from the last couple of years, we would have been before the local, Division of Local Government Services asking for a waiver. So it's just a on-paper bank. If we need it, we need another type of revenue. You can't raise taxes.
And we did that because you're so smart, right?
In every town.
Every town does that, you say?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a smart thing, though.
Okay?
I just want to thank Robin, because she stayed late one evening to go through the budget with me, and as my husband and close friends know, I ask a lot of questions. So she spent every single minute going through all my questions and allowing me to grasp the total understanding of the budget, so I want to thank her for taking that time. She had to go down to second grade level, but I got it.
Thank you, Robin.
No problem.
So now it's the public hearing?
Now the public hearing on
On the
the
budget.
2016 budget. And you just come up to the microphone, give your name. See? Claire?
Claire Dyke, 1017 14th Avenue. I'm very, very impressed with the work that Robin has done. She's phenomenal in her work. Opposition forces in town are constantly critical of debt, but I was impressed with the explanation about how the debt is being paid down. So I think that those who are critical got a very good explanation tonight of how the debt is getting paid down and how it's being done incrementally, and for that, that's a lot of kudos and bravo on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else, I move to close the public session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay. Now for the public session on resolutions, only on the agenda. We will continue to have the public session at the end of this meeting. Okay. Anybody want to come up and speak on any of the resolutions we have on the agenda? Holly Klein.
Yes, sir.
Ollie Klein from Klein's Fish Market, and I'd like to speak for a moment about the resolution for the transfer of the liquor license from 507 to the lot next to my property, the former site of the Pied Piper Warehouse. I have a number of concerns about it. It's not that I'm against it, but I have some concerns that I want to bring to the council's attention. The first one has to do with the pumping station located at the end of River Road by the railroad. That particular street is the only street in town that's not connected to the Belmar sewer system without having a pumping station. And for the past 20 years, we've been, and it's a 20-year-old system, so for the past 20 years, we've been the only ones using it. And it was designed for basically an ugly warehouse that had a small office staff and myself. And I think there was an auto repair shop with very little usage of the system. For the past few years, it's been at capacity, and there's been some issues with it. Basically, we've been providing at our own expense pumping of it on a monthly basis so that it would be able to continue to function. First 17 years, it ran like a charm, very few issues, but the last few years, it's been having some difficulty. Every time there's a difficulty, the Public Works Department, the plumbing inspectors, and other powers that be are always down all over us. So what we've been doing is sending our own pumping trucks down there to pump it out at our expense, a little over $400 a month for the past couple of years. I don't know what the capacity of the new bar is going to be. No one's ever brought it to my attention. But it's a pretty big sized lot. And I would think that it's going to double the capacity, the amount of material going into the pumping station. And it's going to be an issue. The alarm that tells you when there's an issue with the pumping station hasn't worked for 10 years or more. That used to be a big bell that rang usually late at night after the Public Works Department had gone home. We'd have to call the police department. They'd get in touch with the Public Works, send someone out on overtime, and try to figure out what needed to be done and get it running. Now, without the alarm, if something goes wrong, two things happen. Water backs up into the restaurant, and it seeps out of the manhole covers, particularly near the pumping station, which is a big problem. So I believe that needs to be addressed. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know the capacity for the outside bar, but the bathrooms that seem to be on the lot are kind of small. I was recently to a wedding in someone's backyard, and they rented a similar sized facility. The wedding had about 90 people, and it was a line for both the ladies and the men's room using portable stations similar to that. I'm not looking forward to people coming to my place to use the bathroom unless they're patrons. So I just want to break in. The other alternative is to come over here to the police station to use the bathrooms. So that's a concern, the pumping station. The other thing is security and fencing of the property. My property is the waterfront behind it. Council might not be aware of that, but it's approximately 15-foot wide section of my property that runs along the waterfront from the end of the riverwalk that you have. We currently have a lobster boat back there that rents space from us. Securing the area for security. I have walk-ins. I have a lot of money and product that's in those walk-ins that are adjacent to the area, and so I have concerns about security. I also have concerns about my staff when they're on break. I don't want to go to the adjacent bar and having a drink when they're supposed to be having a cigarette. So some secure fencing is, and I consider necessary. There's been security issues from years back when 507 was first opened and it was pretty busy. There was a number of security issues every time the bar emptied out, usually around 1:30 at night. Fist fights, other things going on in the street. People coming over and going onto my property, behind my property, along the waterfront. And, how are we going to handle that? And are there going to be police presence there? I know the police department is kind of taxed with Lake Como, but that's a concern of mine. Maybe there needs to be a police officer there. Maybe they need to hire one or whatever. The next concern I have is noise. How are we going to treat I have a permit, and I've had outside entertainment for over 25 years. And we play low-key dinner music, background dinner music. And sometimes my customers can't even really hear it, but I'd rather them have trouble hearing it than having it too loud. They're going to have outside music. I don't want my customers having to deal with loud rock bands or whatever, so that should be something that is, addressed perhaps beforehand. And the last comment I'd like to have, or to make, is about parking. Parking is a major problem. I heard you mention earlier about the Belmar EVP, having some kind of meetings about parking. I used to be a member of that, and I joined to particularly get across about the need for parking in Belmar. The shared parking concept is a terrific concept until it gets to the point where it's overused. In the 20-some years that the Seaport project has been on the books, shared parking was always brought up and discussed, and it's benefited me and everyone else in town and in the area. However, it gets to be a point when it's overused and it's going to become a negative effect on everybody. In the last couple of years, we have a beautiful new building where Havens and Hamptons Fish Market used to be on the corner of 5th and Main. It's not open yet, but in that building, there's a 300-seat restaurant waiting for a developer or a restaurateur to take it over. They have 25 parking spaces. 300-seat restaurant. You have another 300-seat restaurant that's opening around the first of the year, I'm told, by Chefs International in the marina. No additional parking provided. At one of the council meetings, when you first approved the idea of it, one of the council members mentioned and was quoted in the paper of saying, well, if they need extra parking, they can use the lot behind the police station. There's only so many spots in that lot between the Arts Council, the police department, who I'm told with the addition of Lake Como have at least 40 officers working on the weekends, and they come to Belmar not on bicycles, but with automobiles. And my own business and the other businesses in the area, and people using the gym, when you have your basketball and other events in the gym, there's just not enough parking. And each time we add something, eventually it's going to have a detriment to the other businesses. We talked a lot tonight about the Belmar BBP, and they've spent a lot of our money advertising in the video that you mentioned earlier. Last year they had a beautiful billboard on the turnpike. Come look at Belmar, we're more than we used to be. But when the people get here, you gotta have some place for them to park, or you gotta have some kind of plan. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you very much.
Anybody else in the audience want to speak on, okay, Gene?
It's hard to tell.
Thank you, Gene Murray. I live at 710 8th Avenue. And most of the things that Ali said, I agree with 100%. We live in as you know, where the senior building is. And again, we don't know the capacity of that place that wants their license. and with the crowds and the noise and with the traffic, you know, we have a lot of old people in our building, including myself. You know, we like to go for walks and ride the bikes and all that, and it's gonna, and I think it'll be too much. And as Ollie said about the parking, it's, you know, it's bad, so I hate, I love to see people make money in, as businesses, you know, but, you know, I would,
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Sir? Just want to state your name for April so that you can write it down.
Name and address for the record.
Certainly, thank you, Colleen. Good evening, Roger McLaughlin from the law firm of McLaughlin, Stauffer, and Shackley in Wall Township. I represent, as the council knows, DCJ Belmar as well as Dockside Dining in connection with the transfer of the alcoholic beverage license. And I just wanted to point a couple of things out to the council. I think most of you are aware of the fact that the issues that were raised by Mr. Klein and the other residents were really very thoroughly considered by your planning board on two separate occasions, actually. Once when the redevelopment of that property was first considered and approved, and this restaurant being part of the phase one of that redevelopment project. It was also, those issues were again discussed and considered by the board for a second time last year when we came back for an amended approval, and all of those issues were again discussed and addressed. So the site has been approved twice by the planning board, and they've taken into account the types of issues that Mr. Klein mentioned. For example, the bathroom facilities were approved by the planning board. They meet all requirements for the occupancy of the establishment. In terms of security and fencing, the entire property will be fenced in, and the operators will provide appropriate security. In terms of noise, the planning board put restrictions on the type of music that can be played there, even limiting the number of musicians to make sure that the noise does not leave the site, does not bother any neighboring residents or certainly bother Mr. Klein's. In terms of parking, as I also think the council knows, Loco, who owns the property, we're just tenants, created about 40 parking spaces there on its property, which never existed before, to serve this property. So we've certainly helped to alleviate the parking issue, which we know, of course, exists in the borough and elsewhere, particularly in seasonal businesses. In terms of Mr. Klein's staff coming over for a drink, I don't think we can stop them. Hopefully, Mr. Klein's staff will not be coming over drinking on their smoking breaks. But we also made concessions for Mr. Klein's property. We moved our coolers about 8 feet to give him more room, more access on the side, and we've been open to any suggestions. I know Mr. Capalco, who owns the property, excuse me, has been in constant contact with Mr. Klein. So we're certain that this will be a well-run facility. It will be a real credit to the borough of Belmar, something that we've been looking forward to for some time, and we think we'll be operating, we're sure, without any negative impact on the neighborhood. And I think your planning board has done a very thorough job in considering those types of issues with respect to the site plan approvals that it's already granted for the project.
Did you say you have 40 parking spots over there now?
Yes, there were 40 parking spots created.
Off the street?
Yes, actually on the local property.
And April, you know that you're on the planning board. Barry DePet, for that restaurant over there, they have more than, they have very close to all parking for their restaurateurs, right? Yeah. I think the number of spaces that Ali quoted were for the people that own houses there. But there are other additional parking spaces for people that be using their restaurant. Okay.
Thank you very much.
That's actually it. When you vote.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Seeing nobody else, I make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay,
Want me to go first? So the first resolution is to amend the 2016 budget. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Councilman Kilpatrick?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
yes.
Next is a resolution adopting the 2016 budget and budget amendment. Do we have a motion?
I'll second.
Councilman Kilpatrick?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Next is a resolution authorizing a person-to-person and place-to-place transfer of plenary retail consumption license with broad package for DCJ Belmar to Dockside Dining.
And this is what we just heard
Right.
two people talking.
I'm going to recuse myself from this vote, just so everybody understands. As a professional musician, I do business with some of our licensed establishments in town, and just out of an abundance of caution and to avoid any sense of any possible impropriety, I don't want it to look like I'm doing anybody any favors. I'm just going to recuse myself from this and any other licensed establishment kind of votes.
Do you want to comment before?
Yeah, let's comment before we vote.
I'm not sure that an outdoor bar in this section of town is in the best interest of our residents. This is not voting, this is just making comments, correct? So I'm not voting anything.
I mean, typically you would make a motion to, somebody would make a motion to adopt the ordinance, and then before you vote, you could make comment.
Let's do it that way.
Okay.
Make a motion to adopt this ordinance. You second it? Okay.
Okay, so then, Councilman Kilpatrick?
I'm going to say the same thing I just said a minute ago. I'm not sure this is in the best interest of our residents, so I'm voting no.
I just have some specifics or general questions again. Hours, is it open till what time? What time?
The restrictions recommended by the Belmar Police Department, closing time will be 12 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, and until 1 a.m. Friday and Saturday, and those Sundays preceding a federal holiday, so think Memorial Day, July 4th, and Labor Day.
Occupancy?
376.
During the time of being open, music can play the whole time,
Till 11 p.m.
and it's outdoor.
Yes.
No walls, no,
There's no structure, there's no enclosure.
Is there any percussion?
3 pieces, live bands are limited to 3 pieces without heavy percussion. I'm sorry, so they're voting.
I think there's, if I may,
So,
Mr. McGovern, there's something that the council should be aware of that I did not mention. I didn't see the need for it. The Borough of Belmar has already approved the location of a liquor license at this location by means of a redevelopment agreement to which the borough is a party. It provides for a 3-year period for this bar to be there before the property is redeveloped into condominiums. So the borough has committed to that location as an appropriate location for a bar, subject to planning board approval, which has been given on 2 occasions. But that should be part of the record, and I think the council members should be aware of that. She may not have been aware of the redevelopment agreement that exists between LoCo and the borough. Thank you.
I would like to clarify the record that that 3-year period expires at the end of this calendar year.
Okay, so the music
The
festival,
lawyer brought it back up, raised this issue
We're
one more
gonna-
time. Can I speak on it?
George,
We're in the middle of a vote.
we're going to go to, he seemed to have been speaking after we had closed it. So I don't know the,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Mr. McLaughlin came up and asked me, he advised me of the developers agreement, and I had told him that if he thought it was relevant, then he should bring it up. And Colleen wanted him not to do that, and I said that we should be allowed to do that. And the reason why I do that is because I think people should have an opportunity to be heard. Mr. McLaughlin said he didn't bring it up because he thought it wasn't relevant. Essentially, Mr. McLaughlin brought more information to the body that he thought was relevant on behalf of his client, and I allowed that. It's up to the board, the mayor and council, the council's discretion at this point in time, as to how far that is going to go, as to addressing Mr. McLaughlin's specific point.
Okay. And since I didn't see any hands, since he spoke, Mr. Klein spoke, Mr. Murray spoke, and then we close it, I'm going to hold it to that.
Okay, and the reason why I did that is I didn't want the governing body not to have information that may be relevant. That's the only reason why I did it.
Okay, so you still are?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the hours, up till 1 AM, the occupancy 376. If you said half of that, I would have been surprised, to be very honest. The music can play the entire time. I don't know decibel level or how we can control that or what type of music. 3-piece band. I don't know what Pure Bar has, but, they're a little bit further out. Is there any restrictions to people hanging outside? You've got, I guess, the enclosure, but will they be out on the streets and around the sides, and how does that?
The police department has recommended, should council approve the transfer, extensive need to try to control the entrance and exit, unruly patrons, extra police, restrictions similar in place to what I would imagine other outdoor bars might have. But we don't really have something exactly like this in Belmar, so it's a little unique.
And for safety reasons, probably my biggest concern, there's fencing around it, I guess just around the back because there's that walkway that you can take your bike and go behind. Is that still accessible? Because normally you can come down the street and take your bikes and go down to the marina.
What this states is that the fencing and exterior perimeter must be approved by the chief of police.
Okay. But they can walk outside with their drinks outside the perimeter?
They better not.
Okay.
No, they can't go outside the perimeter.
All right, just it's all, I was trying to see how 376 people are going to be in that area. So
Nobody can go outside with their license.
Just like the night they experience.
I know we've got, obviously, Klein's business there. We've got extremely limited parking, as it is. We have the senior building there, which is, there's residents. Basically, there's many people living less than a block away. I know it's temporary until the next phase, and I'm just not comfortable with voting yes on this. Again, security is probably my top concern, parking and noise, so I do vote no.
Councilman McGovern?
Ladies, I hate to disagree with you. I was on the planning board. We did go over this over and over and over again. They did meet everything that we asked them to do. Took a long time to get it done, but they do. As far as security, a fence around, I mean, I could easily walk over to 9th Avenue Pier and fall into the river. I've known the Harmon brothers for 25 years. When I was recreation director, there was no single better sponsor to the recreation department than the Harmons. Not even close. Sterner's, $100 a year for sponsorship. Shatzo's, CCW. I would get $10,000 from these people. They'd run a icebreaker ball. The recreation department would get all the money. They worked as lifeguards in Belmar. That's when I first met them. They went down at Seagirt and turned the Seagirt Beach Patrol into probably as professional a beach patrol as there is in the state of New Jersey. They do a good job. The demographic that they're going to bring over there is not going to be what they have at where the boathouse, where what was that 5 so if you look outside, it's really nice. I don't know if you've been over there with the fire pits. With 3-piece music, it's not going to be blasting. I'm not going to be able to hear it down by my house where sometimes I can hear the tides. You know, sometimes I think it's personal, but they've treated the recreation department far better than anybody else. And I know they really do a good job. And I know they'll do and that they're not going to attract people that would go and choose, should I go to Evelyn's or should I go here? No, it's going to be different people. I don't think it's going to affect the type of people that go to Evelyn's. They have to turn the music off at 11 o'clock at night. Okay? And a lot of people, if you go to 9th Avenue here, they're riding bicycles. Sure, the traffic's always been a problem over there. There used to be a bar there called Dudley's when Evelyn's was there. That was a big bar, real big bar, in the 50s and the 60s. I think there's going to be something similar to 9th Avenue here. It's nice, people love it. Very scenic. I think they can work together. I clearly, big yes to grant this transfer.
April, did we actually, we need a roll call on this, right? That was a comment?
That was
the
both.
roll call?
No, that was the part, I thought that was just our opinion, it's how we're going to vote.
That was your vote.
Didn't hear a roll
Comment,
call.
and then-
Mr. McGill, excuse
I
me.
can do it.
First of all, I didn't hear a roll call.
Sure. You
Secondly,
can do the roll call.
We'll do the roll call.
under the ABC regulations, my client is entitled to notice before a rejection of its application, which we didn't get. That's number one. So you're violating that regulation. You're putting Belmar in a position, ladies, where you are violating, breaching a redevelopment agreement that this borough has signed and to which it's obligated to comply.
Mr. McLaughlin, we're gonna have to discuss the roll call now. We've had the discussion.
Go right ahead. I just want a record of who's voting no.
Councilman Kim Blackburn?
No.
Councilman Nicolay?
No.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Seeing cool, George.
Now moving on to the next resolution.
Next one is a resolution authorizing the issuance of a club license to the Belmar Fishing Club. Is there a motion to approve?
Do you have a motion to approve?
Jen, you have a comment.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Kim Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Jen, you can come back up.
And
Now is Friendly Sons of the Shillelaghs.
Friendly Sons of Shillelaghs, we're both going to have to recuse ourselves.
Recuse ourselves
Yeah,
because
so-
we are Shillelaghs.
George, we've got two members who have a conflict because they're members, leaving two council people to vote.
Yeah, well, they have to recuse themselves, so they don't have employees to perform.
The quorum of two does not quorum. Okay, so this will have to carry.
Do we have to step off so that there's not a quorum, and then
No.
we just, okay.
Is that sufficient?
But Matt would have to recuse himself.
Right.
We're going to have a discussion with our attorney and the state EBC about how to proceed on that one.
Clearly, too many Irish.
Irish
No
men.
such
men.
thing.
Men. We need more.
I said, you got the daughters of the revolution, you know, you got sons of Shillelaghs.
So next is consent agenda number 1.
Consent agenda number 1.
Do we have a motion to approve that consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilman Kim Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
And next is consent agenda number 2.
And again, under some caution, I'm going to recuse myself. Thank you.
I'll make a motion. So, Holly, I'm so sorry, can you please explain this fourth from the bottom? No impact.
No, that's the, whenever a licensee has held a license in pocket, it still must be renewed. So there's a few of those on here, actually.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Councilman Kim Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes. Come on back up, Tom. Now to ordinances, second reading. Public hearing. Anybody want to come up to the microphone and speak about this ordinance number 2016-5? This would be the calendar year 2016 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. Seeing no public comment, I make a motion to close the public portion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, for the first reading and
Motion,
intro.
do we need a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Yes, that was just.
You want to do that? Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Councilman Kilpatrick?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicholas?
Yes.
Councilman Rivera?
Yes. Okay, now for the first reading and introduction for ordinance 2016-6. This is the ordinance of the Borough of Belmar amending chapter, I'm going to say, I forget my Roman, 16, all right. Police regulations.
George, do you want to give us just a general overview of this?
Right, the ordinance is designed to provide a specific municipal remedy for circumstances that the bars in the municipality face, namely underage persons trying to get into bars. The circumstances are now with the law that the towns have very little choice but to charge the state statutes. There was a time where towns could have their own disorderly persons ordinances, and state statutes would have their disorderly persons statutes, but and the town could enforce its own ordinances rather than the state. The state does not. The state has preempted, state statutes preempt ordinances. So the landscape now is that municipal courts are faced with having to deal with situations that involve our specific businesses, but the matter is controlled by state statutes, and honestly, the municipal courts function in a way that sometimes when there's no aggravating circumstances, a plea to a borough ordinance would be more in order than a trial regarding state statutes that results in criminal records for individuals and things of that nature. So I was asked to look at the circumstances and to develop an ordinance that would enable the town to protect its businesses from such interferences such as that. Now, it's not only that, but it would fit that circumstance and enable the borough to otherwise deal with these issues where they are not really, the borough's really, the municipal courts really not in a position to do anything but enforce the 2C, the criminal violations, or the 33, the alcohol beverage violations. So that's really what that's designed to do. It's not designed only to do that, but it would serve that function.
Yeah, we don't have something to cover, when we have a lot of ordinances in our book, I mean, it's,
Nothing that exists.
No, well, the ordinance is used to be written, like Como had a specific fake ID ordinance. They can't charge that because it's preempted by state. If you're going to charge that, you have to charge the state statute. There was, evidently some of these individuals were very noisy online, so they played the noise violation. Well, you can see that that really doesn't fit. So now we have an ordinance that fits, and it's something that can be used in the municipal court in certain circumstances where appropriate to resolve cases, resolve matters without having to try every single case. in here on a Belmar or a Lake Como municipal court debt. So, I mean, each trial, each case taking half a day of trying, because there's no way that you can resolve it. Why you don't hire an attorney to come in and plead guilty. You try your case, and we'll be backlogged until just would never be relieved. So to answer the question long-windedly, no, there's nothing right now that really fits.
Thank you.
I need a motion to offer this for first reading.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Councilman Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
I wanted to amend Mr. McGill and Borough Minister Connolly. I'm the one who raised the concern about this. I looked at the situation, I felt that justice really wasn't being served appropriately. I mean, in our municipal courts, justice needs to be local, it needs to be flexible, and most importantly, it needs to be appropriate. And I felt there were times when we weren't really doing that. And I have to hand it to Mr. McGill. I mean, this is brilliant. I looked at this as, what is this? And when Colleen explained it to me, this is perfect. This is exactly the kind of thing I was looking for. So definitely yes.
Councilman Nicholas?
Yes.
Councilman Montgomery?
Yes. Okay, now, with first reading and introduction, ordinance 2016-7. This is an ordinance authorizing a special emergency appropriation in the amount of $210,000 for the preparation and execution of a complete reevaluation of real property in and by the Borough of Belmar in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey. You want to kind of explain this, Scott?
Yes, absolutely. So this is with regard not to the county demonstration program that you are familiar with, we've had resolutions on recently, but in association with a settlement agreement with the state of New Jersey that predates Sandy. Belmar is one of many towns in New Jersey that had not had a complete re-eval in over 10 years. Our last re-eval is probably over 15 years ago. So after extensive negotiations with the state of New Jersey, with the understanding that Belmar was not in the enthusiastic position to want to execute a full reval and possibly see our homeowners' taxes increase, we were attempting to stave this off for as long as possible after Sandy to allow people time to recoup and recover. At this point, it is time for us to commence the reeval. This is under a state mandate. This is not something we're choosing to do, but it is something that has to happen. This ordinance will allow the cost of that reeval to be spread over time so that it's not just a devastating hit in 1 year. But this is the start of the reeval process. You will start to see more activity in the upcoming weeks and months. We are going to go out to RFP, that was authorized tonight, and so things will start to move.
So basically, housing reassessments?
Yes.
Because right prior to Sandy, I know we were reassessed and our taxes doubled, if not more. Are we excluded?
No, this will be a townwide reassessment. Hopefully, if you were recently reassessed under the Monmouth County's 20% rolling program, you're not far off from where you'll end up after this reeval.
And do I remember correctly that about in 2011 or 12, they were talking about this,
Yes.
and the council at that time, the people who were sitting up here at that time, got it pushed off for a year or two, but it's been like 4.
Yes. This is pretty much the end of the stretching.
You know, they'll have people coming to every house,
Yes.
and they'll walk through your house, upstairs,
They
downstairs.
have to go inside.
I believe so.
And if you're not home, they'll leave, and you have to schedule one. So the whole, how long did this, I don't, I remember they did it once before, I only remember once, but it probably takes them a long time. So it'll take them a couple of years?
I think it'll take them about a
They're
year.
gonna be in my house for years?
You got an empty nest.
But they have to hire sufficient people to complete it, so it hopefully will be completed in about a year after award.
Okay.
We have a motion to offer this as first reading? And a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Seal Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay? Woo-hoo, yeah!
Yes.
Yes. That was pretty fun. Okay. Now to the public session. Please remember, we're going to be limited to 5 minutes, and I'll try and take you in size order so Colleen doesn't have to pop up. Yes. Just give your name and address for April.
Sure.
Thank you. Sandy Caputo, 1705 Serb Avenue. I would like to speak about football playing on the beach, again.
Again.
Again. This is not a reflection on our lifeguards. Our lifeguards are great. But they're young, they're only going to do what we tell them to do. I'm talking about this during the time when badges are required, 9 to, I guess it's 5 or 6 now. Along with frisbees, kite flying, baseball bats, tennis rackets. And it's not just the ball, and it's not just the racket. It's the large guy chasing the ball, not looking up in the sky, not watching where he's going, trying to fly a kite, again, looking up in the sky, not watching where he's going. I don't know what it is about the football and these dangerous things on the beach. I wonder, are we afraid that word will get around, that we're not allowing this and people won't come here and spend their money? I can't imagine that. I don't know why else we keep allowing these dangerous things to go on the beach. And, I'm sorry, Brian, but I'm going to mention, when you said your grandson was made out of rubber, everybody thought that was cute. I think that was last year.
Yeah.
Believe me, when a 200-pound guy steps on him or falls on him, he's not made out of rubber.
Yeah.
I have small nephews,
Yeah.
I have grandsons. All it would take would be, I guess, for the mayor to tell beach management to stop this, and it would be stopped. There's days when I would like to just sit back on the beach with my friends. You can't even sit back because you have to keep watching this. Most people don't even know that there's an ordinance. I guess they accept the fact that a day at the beach means watching out that your kid doesn't get trampled or get hit in the face with a football. And I know you, Brian, you were a lifeguard. Bruce is gone, but he was a lifeguard. You remember back the time when as soon as you saw that football come out, blew the whistle, it was done.
In defense of the lifeguards, their focus is really out in the water. And I was like, sometimes football will be going on behind the stand and you were just unaware of it until someone came up to complain. And when they did, we stopped it. And I'm sure at the beginning of this summer, you could have some new people on I don't know what beach you go to. On the new.
18th, I'm not funny, but it's all over the beach.
But yeah, we'll speak to Ray Elms, he's at lifeguards, and we'll spread the word to our lifeguards that, every once in a while you gotta turn around and look to see what's going on in the back.
The footballs are flying right in front of them. Right in front of them. Footballs. I saw someone park the car on Surf Avenue and head for the beach with a wooden baseball bat. So I guess now we've got wooden bats flying around the beach, being swung around the beach. It was never allowed. Lifeguards saw that football come out.
Yeah, when they say, and again, I'm gonna say,
The footballs are flying
they'll be
all over the place.
they'll be thrown right in front of us, and you're still so focused on the people in the water, you don't see it. And all of a sudden Howard Rowland will come down, and you go, oh. But yeah, if they see it and it's focused, if someone complains, we'll get them.
I don't think you should have to complain. That's not the way it used to be.
Well, in other words, you gotta bring it to his attention, you gotta say, guys, right there. Okay.
Our lifeguards now weren't even born yet when this wasn't allowed. And I'm going back a while. My parents I've owned that property that I live on for 40 years. Somebody's going to get hurt.
We'll bring it up to Ray and get it addressed. Thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
we will.
Mr.
Thank you.
McGovern,
Thank you, Sandy.
Ms. McGovern, in reference to that issue, there is a qualification in the ordinance in reference to ball playing and throwing of frisbees. And what's prohibited is that activity which is conducted in any manner which creates a danger or unreasonable inconvenience to others. So it's not a blanket and strict prohibition that a frisbee or a football cannot be thrown in the air. You can't. But I understand the problem with that. So when does it become a danger or inconvenience, unreasonable inconvenience? These are really mushy words, but there's, just so everybody realizes, there's not a blanket prohibition.
And I've seen it stopped many, many times. So I don't agree that across the board they're ignoring it or not enforcing it. And then the beaches I go to that see a lot of unhappy kids because they're told to stop. So,
Well, and I'm not saying what's being complained of here shouldn't be prohibited. I'm just saying the ordinance,
Right.
Allows some, but not all.
I know exactly what Sandy's saying. Some people think they can play a football game regardless of the little kids around. Other times you might, a dad wants to have a catch with his son or daughter, that's gonna be okay. But sometimes the water's pretty rough. The lifeguards will look right past that and be watching the swimmers in the water as well they should. Okay. Anybody else? Brendan? Just give your name to April.
Brendan Reed, 100 9th Avenue. Mr. Klein's comments on parking actually point to a need for a comprehensive parking study under low, medium, and high growth scenarios to ensure that we have adequate parking. On that note, which to inform council that NJ Transit will begin this weekend additional short service on June 26th. It will consist of direct express trains from New York Penn Station, stopping at Secaucus, which is the transfer point for the North Jersey trains, and at Newark, plus additional local trains from Long Branch. Given the parking situation this summer, I recommend that the borough get out and put the word out to the media, especially the statewide North Jersey and the New York media, to encourage people to take NJ Transit to Belmar. Thank you.
Thank you. Claire?
Thank you.
Okay.
Claire Dyke, 1017 14th Avenue. On behalf of Belmar Cares, our little breast cancer support group, I want to thank the borough staff and council for allowing us to use this facility for our wonderful In the Pink program, which was affiliated with Paint the Town Pink. We used all different rooms here for the nails and the hair and refreshments, and this was the room for our wonderful speaker, Dr. Johnson Miller. And I thank Councilwoman Blackburn and Councilwoman Nicolay for their involvement. It was a wonderful night. I think it's important that people have this information about breast cancer, and since there's a continuing interest, we would wish to do it for years to come. So I thank you implicitly for your cooperation. Decorated the whole area for us. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
Thank you, Brian.
Sound good, right? David Schnack, 302 C Street. First of all, do I have to address the question to you if it's really to Councilman Brennan or?
Well,
because my concern here is that I would like to know if this is Councilman Brennan's intention to recuse himself every time there's a vote on a liquor license for a bar that might have a ban. This is really a problem. This is part of his responsibility as a councilman is to act as a member of our local EPC board. And I really think this is a problem. If he's going to recuse himself from every vote involving a liquor license at a bar, it's like we're understaffed for our EPC board. It really isn't right,
Well, when we met before the meeting, we kind of advised Tom that on the abundance of caution to recuse himself. But there will be other times where a bar issue will come that he will feel used.
No, if it was gonna be an abundance of caution, it should have been before he ran for council.
No,
If,
wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Councilman Brennan is actively playing in bands now. I don't know what he's gonna be doing next year. I give him credit for bringing it up. I personally, conflicts of interest are sometimes fall in a very gray area. Okay, so I left it to Councilman Brennan to make the determination on his own whether or not he felt that he could, or should sit there. And he didn't want to do that because he didn't want to taint the rest of the vote. So I went along with his determination, and I give him credit for that. So I think we have to leave, the next vote to the next vote when we know what it is, so we know when it is, and then whomever sits up here will determine whether they have a conflict. I'm not so certain that a court would find that Councilman Brennan actually had a conflict. He felt that he did. I went along with it because I use that as a standard. If somebody feels that they do, then that's enough for me to say, yeah, recuse yourself out of, in quotes, abundance of
well, I
caution.
don't know why the specifics of which bar is applying for their liquor license would establish whether or not he has a conflict. It's not like he has a contract with, Capalco or with.
The man received some money to play in the bar. He didn't want that to taint the vote, so he stepped down. It's as simple as that.
With that bar?
You think
With
that
that bar?
disqualifies him for being a councilman? Well, that's your.
No, I don't want to see him recuse himself every time there's a vote on a liquor
We'll
license.
see what happens next
Yeah.
But that would be a problem.
We were doing all of them. It probably was the smartest thing to do, I think. Tom, you feel the same way?
There was more than one establishment.
Okay.
There was more than one.
That's an issue, so, that we only have 4/5 of the ABC board, with certain, situations. There's one thing with Mayor Doherty with Friendly Sons, because it's not really a bar, well, I guess it's a bar, but it's not the same kind of thing, and this is a very difficult situation now. It looks like we're gonna be sued over it, and I just want to add that, I think this is very terrible that our council has put us in a situation again where it looks like we're gonna get sued again. If Mr. Capalco and if the Harmon Brothers met all the stipulations of the redevelopment agreement, of the planning board, this, all of a sudden to bring up these objections and to use it to turn down his license, to me, this seems like something's not right, that there's something else going on here that we're not privy to, and it's more than just my own personal impression that there's more to this than just parking or noise or whatever, because it certainly hasn't seemed to be a problem with other liquor license approvals. I really, please oblige me here. I still don't understand this ordinance 2016-06. What kind of activity without unlawful purpose would this ordinance encompass?
I'm sorry, Dave, what was that?
I'm not really clear on what kind of activity with unlawful purpose this ordinance.
Without lawful purpose.
Yeah.
It was brought up, for instance, picketing, right? That may be thought of as interfering with the business, but it's a lawful purpose. So that kind of thing.
So picketing is a lawful purpose.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be under that. So what would be an example of an unlawful purpose?
The reading of that ordinance is interfering with no right to do so, really. With trying to do something illegal, without doing something lawful. Trying to get into a bar so that you can drink when you're underage is unlawful. So there's no lawful purpose for handing the man the ID. They interfere with the business operations. That's what it's designed to do.
So this is to make it a municipal offense to hand a ID to a bouncer or whoever, that when the ID is actually shows that you're not legally of age to go into establishment. Is that what you're saying?
They're fake IDs, and the ramifications for allowing somebody into the bar who's underage, they're very strict, they're severe. You have, for the first offense, is a 15-day suspension, which to an operation would be, it is very detrimental to the operation.
All right, we're getting into a debate here, we don't want to do that, so.
Well, Brian, this is something, you come up with all this stuff, the meetings are so chock full of stuff to object to very often. And then we get 5 minutes, already we have to really choose our battles, so, this is really, we should have 5 minutes per ordinance or something, instead of 5 minutes for the whole meeting, the way this council operates. But I would really like to see this ordinance be more specific. Yes, it should be illegal to pass false ID, but this is so broadly worded that it really seems like it could almost be used in a way that could be made up as we go along, I would really like to see.
I'm confident it's gonna help the police department,
Well, just because it helps the police department, I'm pro-police and I'm pro-law and order, but helping the police department isn't necessarily helping the town, we are ruled by laws and we are protected by the laws, and this seems to me to leave too much discretion. It's so vaguely worded, it seems like it's ripe for abuse. You want to make a law saying it's illegal to pass false ID or something, I'm definitely all for that. You want to be specific about certain illegal activities, that's great, but to just say, to interfere with the business, and I don't know, it seems like so broadly worded that it could be abused.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion to adjourn today's meeting. Aye.